the top 10 brand new Warzone meta loadouts you guys gotta be using in the new Warzone 6 update. And the last class is so broken it even got banned. And coming in at number 10, we have the ISO 45, which is a top 3 SMG in the Warzone update. At around 10 meters, this class setup is absolutely dominant. You can see rips your opponents rather quickly. But at around 25 meters and beyond, it's very difficult to control the recoil. As you can see, this thing just starts to kick left and right. And on top of that, there's a lot of visual smoke. So when you shoot it, it's very difficult to see. And here's a look at the recoil pattern. It has a very quick initial vertical kick, and then it gets horizontal and a little shaky on its vertical path after that. So it's very hard to control after the 15 to 20 meter mark. Overall, though, the gun is more consistent than Warzone's updates. And unless you got a shot like Swags, you'll be able to dominate with this weapon on both Vondel and Ashika Island. And here's that exact ISO 45 SMG build. As you guys take a look at the tuning, this gun is very quick, so you're able to outmaneuver your opponents, especially on Vondel and Ashika Island. And especially on those close quarter gunfights on those maps, you'll be able to absolutely dominate your opponents as long as that smoke doesn't get in your eye. And here's a class setup that'll help with the visual recoil if you're still struggling and you can't see. And I'm testing all these crazy class setups right now live on twitch.tv. Come say what's up. And coming in at number 9, we have an AR that hits harder than General Shepard. And here's a look at that TAC-V, which is a top 3 AR in the current meta for Warzone Season 6. Against players with about 2 plates, you can take out 1, 2, 3, 4, and about 5 different players in just 1 magazine. And versus 3 plates, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's a complete squad wipe with just the TAC-V. Now, one of the only downsides to this weapon is you have to rock it without sights. Because although rocking one of these sights will increase its visual recoil and make it a lot easier to see your opponents, especially from far, you are now losing 1 slot for high velocity rounds, which makes the gun hit just as hard as you guys just saw. If you want the class setup to hit hard, you have to rock the high velocity rounds, which increases your bullet velocity, and you can tune for your damage range. And here's the exact class setup I'm rocking, and do not change any of the attachments, especially the muzzle. Because although a muzzle like the Sakin thread will help the recoil just a bit, the muzzle I'm rocking actually makes it a lot easier to see your opponents. So unless you want to miss those shots, use this exact class setup. And speaking about missing, drop a like and a sub if you guys miss Rebirth Island. Because coming in at number 8, we're bringing back the new and improved M4A1. And this is a class setup you have to try because with opponents with 3 armors, it absolutely shreds. Up close, medium range, and even across the map, this thing is a unit. Now, most importantly, this class setup is very consistent at all ranges. And although it might not be number 1 in both the close range or the long range, this gun is consistent around the whole park. Also, unlike the TAC-V and all the other ARs you'll see today, the M4A1 is the only AR with 60 bullets in its chamber. And with its recoil being not that crazy at all, you'll be able to take out multiple opponents with still having bullets in the chamber. And if you're a player that doesn't play that often, this is a weapon that has the least recoil out of all the guns you're going to see today, while still having a high damage profile. And here's the exact class that I want you guys to go ahead and try. And if the recoil is rather easy for you, you can actually take this gun to the next level by taking off the sight and adding high velocity rounds tuned for your damage and bullet velocity. And if you think you got a better class setup than the guns you're going to see today, let me know in the comments, but beating the number 1 spot's going to be hard. And coming in at number 7, we have a Movement SMG class setup for you. We have the brand new ISO SMG, and this thing moves quick. And although I do rate this the 2nd best SMG that you guys should be using, if you're a player who doesn't really use movement to outmaneuver their opponents, and being able to rotate between ADS and hipfire mid gunfight, this class setup will be very difficult to use. But up close against opponents with 2 plates, you'll see you'll be able to wipe out opponents rather quickly. And at around 25 meters, this class setup actually has a lot less visual recoil than the ISO 45 SMG, which is just another spin-off of this gun. But what makes this class setup so special is its hipfire. Even at 10 meters, this class setup is still able to accurately hit their shot. And against a dummy with 3 plates, at 10 meters, with me just holding down the right analog stick, I still could take out an opponent with 12 bullets left. Also, another thing to take note of, this weapon has very little recoil to it. At around 25 meters, I'm actually able to accurately hit my shots with putting in little effort to its recoil pattern. And that's because it looks like this without me putting any effort into controlling it. This is an SMG with just vertical recoil control. And another thing to take note of, this ISO SMG has a rather fast strafe speed, which goes back to my first point. If you're able to accurately hit your ADS shots, your strafe shots, and your hipfire shots, this class setup could be a number 2 on your list. And here's that exact class setup, but pay attention to the tunings because they're not what your usual tunings would be. I went very specific so it could hit and feel the way that it does. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments. And coming in at number 6, I have a secret class setup I probably shouldn't be showing you, but I am. Here we have the Sakin LMG, and this thing has 0 recoil and a high damage output. Now, why I rank this LMG above ARs like the TAC-V and the M4A1 has to come down to playstyle. Majority of players aren't solo squatting or playing by themselves. They're playing either with casuals or their friends. So if you're a player that's not solo squatting and constantly pushing teams left and right and needs movement to help them get them out of situations, this is the LMG for you. Against opponents with 3 plates, you can take out as many as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 bullets left. Oh my, almost 9 opponents. And as you can see at the top left, a 77% accuracy rate. And yes, I play this game a lot, but this gun has little to no recoil. As you can see, as I ADS and I shoot, this gun really only kicks vertically. And after that, it pretty much about stagnant about halfway through the magazine. And the obvious downside of this weapon is it's not as quick as a lot of the other ARs. But if you're a disciplined and slower player, you shouldn't be caught out in the open with your primary weapon. And if you only use this weapon in the times you need to, this thing absolutely shreds. And another note to take, I don't even have a under grip on the weapon. That's how powerful this class setup is. And here's that exact class setup I'm using, and I highly recommend this to the casual player base or somebody who's just trying to kick back and play that support role for their teammates, but still have a dominant class setup. And when it comes down to the sights you're using, I use the AIM-OP sight, but you could use this or the SZ Recharge. Just make sure you have the same tuning as I do on this sight. And coming in at number 5, we have a TikTok class setup that's claiming the BAS-P is the official close range SMG meta. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so here's the video coming in from Danger_D. Now, it covers a lot of weapons, but right now he's comparing the BAS-P, claiming it's one of the best in the game. And it looks like he compared this strictly off numbers against some of the other best SMGs, so the Lockman Sub, ISO 45, and the new ISO, so that's good. But let's see how good it is in game against opponents right now. So out the air, medium range gunfight, it looked like it shred, and then, okay, the turn and burn, a little headshot multiplier with the TAC-V. Let's go ahead and give my BAS-P class setup. But here's a look at my BAS-P class setup, and instead of focusing on it being a sniper support weapon, I focus mainly on movement and close range gunfights. As you guys can see, up close this gun shreds rather quickly, but will fault a little bit more at range because it has a bit of a shaker in its recoil department. So unless you get a Cronus, the medium range is going to be hard to use. However, similar to the LMG, if you know when to pull out this weapon, it could be one of the best SMGs that you use. And here's that exact class setup I'm rocking, but if you want to go ahead and rock a sight on it, either remove the VOK laser or the rear grip for it. However, for me, it's not as bad, especially if you know when to use this weapon. And coming in at number 4, arguably one of the best ARs currently in the game, that as you guys can see, pros like Biffle, Ahsoka, Aiden, and many more are using currently in rank play. It's going to be the Kastov 762 that I have my own build for, that I think a lot of you guys at home are going to love. As you guys can see, a lot of the pro players are using it on rank play, given it's a top 2 AR at the moment. Now, there are some downsides to it, but if you can master this weapon, it's one of the best guns to use, and that has to do because of its damage output. With opponents with 3 plates, this thing could shred rather quickly, not only at close range, medium range, but also long range as well. However, you might have noticed towards the end what the downfall of this weapon being, and it has to do with its magazine size. This class setup only has 40 bullets in its chamber, so if you find yourself solo squatting, solo trioing, it's going to be rather difficult to make sure that you have the right discipline to take out not just 4 players, 3 players, 2 players, but even 1 player at times. And another downside of this weapon is its recoil pattern. It's rather difficult to use. If I ADS and shoot without controlling anything, it has a very high initial kick to it and won't stop until the magazine's wiped. However, I do have an attachment that'll help out with that, and it's not an F-Tacker underbarrel. It's actually going to be, again, the high velocity rounds that's tuned for damage range and your recoil steadiness instead of bullet velocity. And now this is going to help out tremendously in the mobility department because there's actually no cons to using high velocity rounds compared to the F-Tac Ripper, which you can see affects the mobility and handling by a great amount. But here's a class setup that I'm rocking with it, and if you're more of an experienced player or want to master a weapon that's going to have a high damage output, it's going to be this exact class setup right here. But if you want something a little bit better that's not as hard to control, Wait till you see the next AR. Before that, we have the #1 SMG that, although you may have seen this meta before, we have a new and improved class setup for you guys. Here's a look at that familiar weapon being the MP5, but after the World Series of Warzone, which was the biggest Warzone tournament to date, I noticed a lot of players using this weapon, and I personally made some subtle adjustments to make this class setup an absolute beast on Vondel and Ashika Island, while still having some characteristics that the pros were using on Al-Mazrah. As you guys can see in the close range gunfights, this gun is very dominant with very little recoil even at range. As you can see, I'm able to take out 2 opponents with little to no effort. And when it comes to hip fire, this weapon actually is very easy to control. As you can see, I can take out an opponent and still have 19 to 20 bullets left. When it comes to its strafe speed, it's rather fast. Its hip fire is actually pretty easy to control as well. And its ADS time is actually one of the quickest ones I've seen to date. Being consistent in every category, I gotta give this the #1 SMG department. But that's SMG. Wait till you see the #1 weapon that currently is banned in rank play. And here's the exact class setup. However, there's one attachment that's pay to win that isn't talked about a lot, but is used by a lot of the pros that has a heavy advantage to it. And it's actually on the VLK laser. A default VLK laser is very easy to see and will actually give away your opponents, especially inside. However, if you scroll all the way down, if you bought the Black Nor pack, go ahead and look for the laser that's called Unspoken Word. And you'll notice an immediate difference when you ADS with this. Instead of red, you have white. That's a lot harder to see, especially when you look down. It pretty much goes invisible. Don't tell anyone. But now coming in at #1 on our AR list and #2 on the whole meta loadout list, we have the brand new TR7, or I'm gonna go ahead and call this the Ram 7 class setup that you guys, as soon as you unlock, should use this attachment. As you guys can see, this gun has a very similar feel to the Hemlock and even the EM2 back during its Cold War days. A medium style fire rate, however, this gun has literally negative recoil, and I mean it when I say that. It has a negative recoil to it. And there's another feature to this weapon that not a lot of ARs have, and I think it's actually #1 in its department. It has one of the fastest reloads time. You're able to get in and out of fights as soon as that. So let's go ahead and take a look at its recoil pattern. I'm going to shoot this without controlling, and as you can see, a very fast initial kick to it. However, when you get about halfway, we'll see what happens. You can see a rather quick vertical kick to it, which a lot of guns have. However, about halfway in, the gun will stop and just bounce left and right. And this will make it feel like your gun's actually kicking downward, because as you're holding your analog stick down, at about halfway, the vertical stops. You're actually holding it too far down where you start to look down, and your gun now is kicking downward. But it's rather easy to master, and here's a class setup that I'm rocking with it. Now, a lot of players are going to have different loadouts with it, and I will have a second class setup right now I can show you guys if you can master its iron sights. As you can see, the iron sights are not bad at all, and if you're able to control this similar to how it was back on the Ram 7 in MW 2019, with the other attachment I put on, this gun will actually hit a lot harder and be easier to control as well if you can get past its visual recoil, which isn't that bad at all. What I decided to rock is the high velocity rounds, and there's 2 separate tunings you could do with this. The first one be the max damage output, being damage range and bullet velocity. But if that's too much for you, you could go ahead and lose the bullet velocity and tune to recoil steadiness. And that'll help out tremendously, especially for those medium to long range gunfights. As you can see, it's a lot easier to control. However, it's gonna be a little weaker. And coming in at #1 is a gun I'm shameless to show you guys, but is so broken that it even got banned in rank play. This class setup is currently taking over, and there's a reason why, but I'll share with you guys that at the end of the video. But if you want to terrorize lobbies, here's the gun that's ruining Warzone forever. Here we have pro player Almond actually jumping into a rank play match, and watch what he puts into his hands. It's gonna be a LockWood shotgun. One shot, you're able to eliminate your opponent. With a fast reload time, you can take out 2 opponents, and if you're able to get that 3rd reload off, you're able to actually get an entire squad wipe. This is not fair. It went as far as even Jay got testing this weapon to see if it was a fluke against opponents with 3 plates, and no. This class setup even had Jay got shocked. Even FaZe Dirty himself had over 14 eliminations on Vondel using this class setup, showing how broken it is. And you might be asking, what is this class setup and why have they not done anything for it? And I'll go ahead and show you the class setup while explaining to you why this is still just as overpowered as it is, and why it most likely won't get fixed until a certain date. Look at that! But the reason it hasn't gotten nerfed is actually because this bundle is soon to release. It's supposed to look as pixelated as it is because it comes from the Doom game, I think back in the 90s. This is a gun that you can't change any attachments with and have to rock as its base. So of course, the LockWood shotgun would get a huge buff to it if it wants to get the sales that it needs to for this brand new bundle releasing soon. And I'll be honest, so this bundle looks sick, but I'm not a fan of the gun being as broken as it is. What is he doing? Oh my God. Now, here's a class setup that J-God's actually rocking. As you can see from Phase Jeff's expression on the right side, it's bad. And what makes this class setup as OP as it is actually has to do with its trigger action and, of course, the barrel and muzzle. So you guys can actually make your own class setup or just use J-God's, which, as you can see, is pretty bad. And I'm live on Twitch trying it out right now.